The Metis of Canada. Location. Where are the Metis located? According to Canada's 2011 census, 451,795 people identified as being Metis. The Metis National Council represents the almost 400,000 self-identified Metis living in Ontario and the four western provinces. According to 2011 census data, about 85% of self-identified Metis live in Canada in the provinces of Alberta, Ontario, Manitoba, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan. Alberta has the largest Metis population with 96,865 residents, followed by Ontario with 86,015, then Manitoba with 78,830, British Columbia with 69,475, and Saskatchewan with 52,450. Other centers with large Metis populations include Vancouver with 18,485, Calgary with 17,040, Saskatoon with 11,520, Toronto with 9,980, Regina with 8,225, Prince Alberta with 7,900, and Ottawa Gatineau with 6,860. Many Metis also live in rural areas, largely in or near Canada's boreal forest, in communities such as the Alberta settlements, with approximately 5,000 residents, and in numerous other communities such as Ile-à-la-Crosse, Sask, Duck Bay, Manitoba, and Fort McKay. Reservations, tribal land, homeland reservations now, and population. While Metis communities exist across Canada, the Alberta settlements are the only recognized Metis land base in Canada. The 8 Metis settlements comprising 1.25 million acres are Buffalo Lake, East Prairie, Elizabeth, Fishing Lake, Gift Lake, Kikino, Paddle Prairie, and Peavine, and are located primarily in east central and northern Alberta. Each settlement is governed by an elected 5-person council that makes bylaws on matters of local governance and is responsible for their settlements, membership, and land allocations, and administers and delivers programs and services. 19th century Metis settlements consist of the Red River Settlement, Manitoba, and the South Branch Settlements, Saskatchewan. The Red River Settlement was one of the most prominent Metis communities located near present-day Winnipeg. In 1870, the population of the Red River Settlement was approximately 12,000, with Metis comprising a significant portion. South Branch settlements, Saskatchewan, were established along the South Saskatchewan River. These included communities such as Batoche, St. Laurent, and Duck Lake. In the 1880s, the combined population of these settlements was around 1,300 individuals. Modern Metis settlements consist of the Alberta settlements, which are unique in Canada for having established Metis settlements with formal land bases. In 2016, the 8 Metis settlements in Alberta had a combined population of 5,054 residents. Metis clothing and European influence of it. The Metis clothing consists of sashes, beadwork, quillwork on coats, bags, and leggings. The clothing worn by the Metis, and as they were called half-breed people, reflects historic events that have impacted them over time, such as the fur trade, changing economies, resistance, and displacement. Both male and female Metis were noted to have adopted elements of European fashion and combined the innovative application of trade goods and the elaboration of indigenous garment forms to create visually distinctive dress. This material culture for Metis is a signpost of a shared identity throughout Canada. Metis floral beadwork art. The Metis are also identified as the flower beadwork people and are credited with having influenced the entire artistic production of northwestern Canada in the late 19th century. According to the Golden Age paradigm, the most prosperous time for Metis artistic development was from the 1820s to the 1870s. Material culture, food, tools, and weapons. Traditionally, the Metis diet in Canada centered around hunting and gathering, with staples like bison, other wild game, fish, berries, and wild plants. The introduction of European foods like flour and sugar led to dishes like pemmican and bannock. Traditional tools and weapons. Spears and lances were used for hunting large animals like bison, bows and arrows for hunting smaller game. Flake stone tools were used for various tasks like shaping wood, bark, and bone, and as spear tips. Knives were used for butchering game and preparing animal skins. Beaver nets were made from caribou hide and plant bark and used for fishing. A jiger, an indigenous tool, was used to set nets under the ice for year-round fishing. Some of the modern tools and weapons introduced by the Europeans and utilized by the Metis now are modern firearms, fishing rods and nets, knives, axes, and hammers, and saws. Metis shelters. The Metis chose their dwellings depending on their lifestyle. These included temporary shelters like teepees and canvas tents during hunts and trade expeditions, and more permanent log houses in settled areas. Temporary dwellings included teepees like those used by First Nations people on the plains. These were used for bison hunts and trade expeditions. Canvas trapper tents, introduced by the Europeans, were also used for temporary shelter. Permanent dwellings. When settled, Metis lived in log houses, typically square cabins made of rounded logs with notched ends. The roofs were often flat, with mud and hay added for insulation. The windows were made of scraped skins of buffalo calves, carefully worked until they were translucent and covered the windows. Customs, festivals, ceremonies, sports, and games. Festivals and ceremonies include Back to Batoche Festival, which is held annually in Saskatchewan. This festival commemorates the historic significance of Batoche, a key site in Metis history. The event features storytelling, traditional music and dance, square dancing, traditional foods, arts, and crafts. Metis Nation Day is a ceremony that's celebrated on July 24th, particularly in the Batoche area of Saskatchewan. This day begins with the Mass, where the St. Joseph Society banner is displayed. Festivities include a country fair with sports events, music, dance, and craft competitions. Sports and games include the Metis Voyager Games, which are featured during the Back to Batoche Festival. These games are inspired by traditional Metis work and leisure activities. Competitions include carrying heavy bags, tomahawk throwing, slingshot firing, as well as fiddle and dance contests. North American Indigenous Games, NAIG, include athletes ages 13 to 19, which compete in canoe, kayaking, lacrosse, and 3D archery. Notable Metis from history. Louis Riel, 1844 to 1885. Louis Riel was a prominent Metis leader, born on October 22, 1844, in the Red River Settlement, now Winnipeg, Manitoba. He played a pivotal role in defending the rights and culture of the Metis people during a transformative period in Canadian history. Riel led two significant resistance movements against the Canadian government: the Red River Resistance, 1869 to 1870, and the Northwest Resistance, 1885. His leadership in these movements was instrumental in the creation of the province of Manitoba. Despite his efforts to protect Metis rights, Riel was captured, tried, and executed for high treason on November 16, 1885. Today he is remembered as a complex figure, a defender of his people, and a founder of Manitoba. Present-day notable Metis. 1997 to present day, Ruby Waters is a contemporary Métis singer-songwriter from Shelburne, Ontario, renowned for her moody soundscapes and powerful vocals. Waters has swiftly captured attention as a rising Canadian artist in recent years. Raised amid the artistic influences of her musician parents, her distinctive voice has been compared to legends such as Janis Joplin and Amy Winehouse. Her music blends alternative rock and folk, resonating with a broad audience and earning her recognition in the Canadian music scene. Métis historical and contemporary struggles. Cultural suppression has been a historical struggle as post-1885, following the Northwest Resistance, the Métis were marginalized, often referred to as the Forgotten People. This period saw significant cultural suppression, leading to a loss of language and traditions. Cultural revitalization continues to be a struggle today, as the Métis strive to reclaim and promote their cultural heritage, including language revitalization and traditional practices, to strengthen community identity. Métis cultural successes today. The Métis Nation has been actively engaged in preserving and promoting its unique culture, language, and heritage. Initiatives include cultural programming, educational resources, and community events that celebrate Métis traditions, music, dance, and art. These efforts have strengthened community bonds and ensured the transmission of cultural knowledge to future generations. Included is a complete list of all the sources I encountered throughout my research for this presentation. Thank you.